Hi everybody, it's Melissa from Portland Public Schools Education Technology, and we're doing a Google Apps office hour this afternoon. So we have time scheduled for about an hour, but I'm not sure I can stay on that long, so we might be done after 30 or 40 minutes. So just a couple of things logistically. If you are joining the Hangout from the live stream, so you're going to the event page, the link that I sent out. You're going to click on the waffle icon in the top right. So you'll click play first, and then you can go to the waffle icon to use the Q&A tool, and you can post questions, and then I can see the questions that you post, and I can answer them. So let's talk about student Google accounts, because those went live on Monday and lots of confusion about them. So let me pull up a slide here. So let me walk through the process of activating student Google accounts. So I sent a flurry of messages out yesterday to the EdTech listservs because I would get some information, send it out, then I'd get different information, and then I would send that out, and then even more different information, and so I sent that out again. So I apologize for sending all those messages to the listserv, but I think it's important that you get all of these updates. So let me go through the process as I understand it. So you would go to the Activate Student GAFE.pps.net website. So that is similar to the Activate Teacher Google account website, but it's for students. So when you go to that, it looks very similar to what the teachers did to activate their accounts. So when you go to that, you'll get to the page and you'll be prompted. There'll be a box for you to enter the student username, which is the part before the @ symbol in their PPS email account. And then there's a space for you to enter a password, and then you would click the activate button, and if it worked, you get a congratulations message with the little green banner at the top. And then you have the account activated for the student, and then the student can log into appsforpps.net using their username at appsforpps.net and then entering their newly synced password. So the issue that we have with student accounts, I don't know if I can explain it clearly enough, is that at our schools, mostly grades 6 to 12, those students most likely have activated or used their PPS account because they have to log into the computer with that account. So especially if they have a computer lab that you're taking your classes to, most likely students will have activated their account already, and then they were prompted to change their password. So that's one situation. The other situation we have is that at K-5 schools, at elementary schools, oftentimes you won't have students logging in or ever using that account. And so those accounts have been created, but the passwords have stayed the same because students never accessed them before and had to change them. So, as I said in the email messages that I sent out, the username should be mlim1234, with the 1234 being the last digits of a student's Synergy ID, and the first initial should be capitalized, and the first letter in the last name should be capitalized. So as you can see on the screen here, mine would be mlim1234. So this is what I would enter into the Activate Student Google Apps page. If I have never changed my password before or never even accessed or used this student account before, you have two options, two things to try as the password. So I tested this process this morning with two different student accounts at two different schools. So I entered in the mlim1234 with the capital letters at the beginning. And then for the password at these two schools, I entered mlim1234, but all of those letters were lowercase. And that worked for these two accounts that I tested out where the teachers who are trying to activate student accounts didn't work with whatever they were trying. So that's one thing to try, is the username all lowercase. Now, a couple of years ago, we actually changed the standard student account password to be what you see here on the slide, password1234. So if the username, all lowercase, doesn't work, another password option to try is capital P @ SS W0RD1234, where again, 1234 are the last four digits of the Synergy ID. Now, there have been some instances where neither of those work, and most likely what will have to happen is the password will need to be reset. So if you are at a school that has a site technology coordinator, an STC, that person should know and have the ability to reset student passwords. So you would need to go to that person and ask them if they could help you reset passwords. If you don't have a site technology coordinator, then you're going to want to contact the service desk to see if they can help you reset student passwords. Now, I did send out another update earlier this afternoon about looking at resetting all the student passwords to be one thing, but that is not happening this year. It would happen next summer, if it would happen at all. So I know this is super confusing. I am totally confused by it, but I hope that was clear enough for you, giving you the two passwords you can try. If neither of those work, then it looks like you will probably have to reset the password. Now, there were some issues I know that Melinda at Arleta had trying to set up these student Google accounts, and those students had passwords, and I believe some of those students changed their passwords. And even if they change the password and the password does not meet the current password complexity rules, that shouldn't matter in the Activate Student Google account page. Because apparently I just found out that we had figured that that would probably happen, so we wanted to allow for those passwords to still work to activate Google accounts, even though they didn't meet current password complexity rules. So we're still looking into that. I'm not sure what the issue is, but once I know, I can send out yet another message to the EdTech listservs. All right. So I am looking, and I don't see any questions or anything. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes and check my email to also see if I'm getting any messages there, questions from people. So I just had a question via email, and I'm going to stop screen sharing. So we had a question about Google Classroom. So Beth at Chief Joseph Ockley Green was trying to get her kids set up on Classroom. And if this was not made clear to you, I apologize, but Google Classroom only works for Google Apps for Ed domains. So if you're logged into your personal Google account and then you try to go to classroom.google.com, it will not work. So you actually need to be logged in with your apps for PPS.net account, and then if you go to Classroom, it will work and you'll be able to access that tool to set up classes, and you'll be able to get a code to give out to your students. So students cannot be using Google Classroom until their apps for PPS accounts are set up. So if students have personal Google accounts, that will not work. So just for your information, Google Classroom only works with Google Apps for Ed. It doesn't work for just regular Google accounts. And let's see, maybe I'll show that again. I know I showed Google Classroom a little bit last time, but let's go here and let me share my screen. All right, so here's my screen. I've opened a new tab. I'm going to click on the waffle icon here in the top left. Oops. I'm actually going to click on it from the bottom here. So here's my apps launcher, and I'm on my Chromebook, so that's why the waffle is showing up in the bottom left corner there. And so then I would go to, and actually, unfortunately, I'm not logged into my apps for PPS.net, so I can't show you Classroom right now because the account that I'm using is associated with my specific YouTube channel, which is how I'm recording this current Hangout on air. But just to talk it through, there should be an icon here for Classroom. You would click on it, and then you should be able to access it. You should be able to create classes. As I mentioned, when you first log into Classroom with your apps for PPS.net account, in the top right corner there will be a plus sign, and that allows you to create a class and also allows for students to join a class. And so that's how students, once they're logged into their apps for PPS.net account, they could click that plus sign and then they could insert the code for your class that you created, and then they would automatically be added to your class once they type that code in. So let's see. Another thing that I just want to review is how to share a document. So I'm going to go through that process, and I will share my screen again once I find out what it is that Right, so let's talk about how to share a document. So here I am in my Google Drive. And I've got my folders at the top. Now this is the new view of Google Drive. So if you're not seeing something that looks like this in your own drive, you're in the old version of Google Drive. And so to switch out to the new version, if you click over here on the settings icon, which is the gear icon, if you click on that, right now you'll see it says, for me, leave the new drive because I am in the new drive view, but if you aren't, there will be an option that says experience the new drive. So you would select that and then your view would look like this if you're in the old version of Google Drive. But if I want to create a new document, on the left-hand corner here, I'm just going to click New and say New Google Doc. And so I can just call this Test, and I can call this Test. And so over in the top right-hand corner is my blue Share button. And so if I just mouse over it, it tells me it's currently private to only me. So that's the default of a document. So if I click on this, I'm going to get my sharing settings window. And right now it's private, only I can access it. I'm the owner. But if I want to change that, I click on the change link. Now, because I'm not logged into my Apps for PPS.net account, I'm missing a couple of sharing options here. So I have these three options: public on the web, anyone with a link, and specific people. When I'm logged into my Apps for PPS.net account, I have a couple of other options specific to the Portland Public Schools domain. So I believe one of the options is anyone with the link in Portland Public Schools can find and access. And then there's another Portland Public Schools domain option, which adds a nice level of security because you're basically saying the only people that can access this document, if you select one of those two options, is somebody that has an Apps for PPS.net account. So if they don't have that Apps for PPS.net account, they're not going to be able to, you cannot share that document with them if you select that for the sharing option. So I'm going to say anyone with the link, and then I get this other option at the bottom that says access. Anyone, no sign-in required, can view, can comment, or can edit. So I'm going to say can edit, and then I'm going to click Save. And so now, right here, link to share, this is what I'm going to send out to people to share the document with them. Now, I can add specific people, so at the bottom here it says invite people. So here, if I said mlim@appsforpps.net, and that shows up, I'm going to invite my PPS account to edit this document. And you're going to want to, by default, leave this box checked that says notify people via email. So if I am in my Apps for PPS.net account, if I uncheck that, I'll get a message prompting me. I forget what the exact message is, but it'll say something about if you uncheck that box and you're not sending an email, then the person has to actually sign in to access the document instead of just being able to click on the link. Now, some of you may not know this, but remember, mlim@appsforpps.net, that's my Google Mail account, but we have Gmail turned off. So if somebody sent a message directly to that email address, I would never get it. However, we have set up this email redirect, especially for these kinds of options in Google Apps where you need to put in the Apps for PPS.net account to share things with other people. What will happen is an email will be generated and automatically redirected to the person's PPS.net account. So even though this is not turned on, this email, I'll still get a notification to my mlim@pps.net account saying PPS Instructional Tech has shared a document with you. So I'm just going to say send. And so then it shows my icon here of my Apps for PPS.net account, and then I say done. So that's how you share a document. So I'm going to go back here And I've got a question from Michael that says, what's the difference between share anyone with the link and the 2 PPS sharing options? So, Michael, let me select your question to answer. The difference between anyone with the link and the 2 PPS sharing options are that if you want to share out the document with somebody that their account is, let's just say, melissa.lim@gmail.com, and you selected one of the PPS sharing options, I would not be able to share that. I couldn't access that document because I do not have that app or pps.net account. So if you're sharing with anyone externally, they're not going to be able to get to the document if you choose one of those PPS sharing options. So if you choose the PPS option, as long as you're logged in with your Apps for PPS account, then you'll be able to access the document. I hope that makes sense. All right. So I'll wait and see if there are any other questions. And actually, I'm going to log in to my Apps for PPS on a different computer so I can see exactly what those options say, so I can speak to that more clearly for you. All right, so I'm creating a test document in my Apps for PPS account. I am going to share it. So the 2 options I get, the additional options that you get when you are logged into your Apps for PPS account, one says Portland Public Schools, people at Portland Public Schools can find and access the document. And then the other option says people at Portland Public Schools with the link. People at Portland Public Schools who have the link can access. So if I only wanted people at PPS who had the link to access, I would choose that second option. And then the first one is that people at PPS can just find and search for the document and access it. So again, Michael, you are correct. With the PPS options, people need to be signed into their PPS Google Apps account to access it. That is correct.
That's very interesting. They're both one-on-one.
All right. I'm still waiting to see if anyone has questions. So I'll wait for about, I don't know, 5 more minutes or so, and if we don't have any questions, then I'll just end the Hangout on air. So I'm going to turn my video off for just a few minutes. Okay, everybody. I know it hasn't been a couple of minutes, but I don't see any further questions. So If you think of something after I end this broadcast, please feel free to email me or email the service desk. I appreciate the patience you all have had in dealing with the student Google accounts. Hopefully we'll get it all worked out soon. Thanks, everybody.